Aloha. I'm Tony Vericella, and I'm so proud to be the Executive Director of the 75th World War II Commemoration. It's just it was such an emotional time during this entire year of planning, and of course all the plans keep evolving and changing, with our global situation. But we couldn't be happier that all this is starting to unfold, and we're getting closer and closer. As you know, the events celebrating the commemoration will occur between August 29th and September 2nd, with September 2nd being, of course, the culmination of 75 years ago, when on the decks of the USS Missouri, the instrument of surrender was signed. It's all about the peace that was generated from that end to the bloodiest conflict of all time. And all of our greatest generation, our World War II veterans who fought on the battlefield, and our civilians and civic organizations who served on the home front globally to bring an end to this. It's not really about the victory as much as it is what's happened in the 75 years since. And this is all about our veterans, all about our greatest generation, and all that we can learn from all of them, especially in today's day and age. Well, I think, having the Warbirds here, and as you know, we have 14 Warbirds as a result of so much effort by Congress, the Department of Defense, Pacific Fleet, the U.S. Navy, so many organizations, both military and civilian, to make this happen, to bring these 14 World War II aircraft here, to participate in 3 Legacy of Peace aerial parades, which demonstrate everything about a free and clear Indo-Pacific. I mean, they are a symbol to all the folks that came together to end the conflict, and they're a visual and powerful, inspiring symbol of that. It enables us to not only share that with the people here around Hawaii, but of course when we're live streaming the September 2nd commemoration, we'll be able to live stream everything around the country and around the globe, and especially to all those countries that participated in the war. And so the Legacy of Peace aerial parade on that day, flying over Pearl Harbor, over the Arizona Memorial, which got us into this war, over the Missouri where it all ended, that is just going to be so majestic, so emotional to anybody and everybody. And it has affected anybody and everybody in the world. So keeping a free and open Indo-Pacific and keeping a free and open globe are so critical. And imagine all of what's occurred in the 75 years since. All of that freedom and openness led to prosperity and development of so many countries and so many people. I think what we all have to remember, again, it can't be repeated enough, this is about getting people to be aware and to participate, whether they're here physically or not, because obviously we have very, very small physical events for obvious reasons and for all good reasons, but virtually it'll be shared. And we want people to remember this is all about, again, our World War II veterans and our greatest generation. Whether they served on the battlefront or on the home front, it's really all about them. We never want to forget all that they did for us. And we're so fortunate that thus far, 14 of the World War II veterans that are going to be here will have either been on the deck of the USS Missouri on September 2nd, 1945, or on other ships in Tokyo Bay, or above Tokyo Bay in aircraft. Legacy of Peace aerial parade here is also a connection back to September 2nd, 1945, when there were about 800 aircraft flying over Tokyo Bay and over the USS Missouri, where the ceremony was really occurring. So there's all these connections. So many of our veterans are actually connected to some of these aircraft, as well as, of course, the September 2nd itself. Thus far, we have over 50 World War II veterans, and their desire to come is what stimulated all of us to go forward, even in the midst of the the COVID pandemic to do everything possible to keep them safe when they're here, to keep them safe when they're home, and keep them safe when they return. Every precaution is being taken to keep all of these special guests safe and healthy. But it's their desire, their commitment that drives us forward. They want to be here. This is their last hurrah. And sadly, in the months that we've been working on this, a number of the veterans that were committed to come, have passed. There's not a week that goes by where we don't get a phone call saying, my dad or my grandfather was so looking forward to being there and just living for that. When we get those messages from the family, we know that staying with this, making sure that we don't let this date of September 2nd, 2020 pass, because the significance of it is just overwhelmingly powerful, and their presence makes it worthwhile.
Hi, my name is Robert Pinkston. I'm here with a B-25 Mitchell and a TBM Avenger for the 75th Commemoration of World War II. I think it's super special that we're here doing this. I never thought I would fly an airplane in Hawaii, never mind fly a Warbird around for the 75th Commemoration. And I think it's super special to have these airplanes, especially a B-25, that was responsible for the Doolittle raid, and a Pacific torpedo bomber here for the people in Hawaii to see and just experience. So I've always been interested in aviation since I was very young, and always specifically Warbirds, and I just kind of started cleaning airplanes when I was a young kid and worked my way up to working on them and then flying them. It's been my whole professional career up until this point. Especially for this event, flying a B-25 around Pearl Harbor is going to be probably one of the highest points in my career. I mean, how special is that? I never imagined I would have that opportunity, so it's going to be definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Over the course of my career, I've met a lot of veterans. In fact, that was my favorite part about flying the airplanes around the country and showing them to people, was meeting guys who flew them 75 years ago, and they're exchanging tips with me on how to fly the airplane, and they remember all that. So, and especially seeing their families get to hear that stuff sometimes for the first time is very cool. So I'm excited to see all the veterans and show them and get to talk with them some more.
Hi, my name is Andres Morales. I'm crew chief on B-25 Old Glory, and I just think it's a blessing to be here with the only B-25 representing the Doolittle Raiders at Pearl Harbor. It's a very, very big event, and I'm just glad to be here. So I got my A&P in high school at Aviation High School in New York City, but I didn't start working on Warbirds until maybe a year or two later. I found out about the Collings Foundation. I worked with them for some time, and now I work for David Prescott on Old Glory. B-25 Mitchell is a World War II bomber. There was a fleet of them that took off of aircraft carriers, and they were a direct response to the U.S.'s involvement in World War II.
Hi, my name is Darrell Wong. I'm one of the co-chairs of the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II here in the Pacific. I mean, we're here at the Kilo Pier with the Essex here that brought over 14 Warbirds from the mainland U.S. over here to fly in an aerial parade around the Hawaiian Islands. Hawaiian Islands played a really significant role in bringing peace to this region, and it continues to this day with all the military here and continuing to promote peace in the Pacific region. The Warbirds especially will be exciting for the people here because the amount of energy and the amount of work it took to bring them here, and the enthusiasm of the pilots and the crews that are coming here took a lot of effort, but they want to make sure that the people here in Hawaii saw what some of the birds were that flew out here in the Pacific. So that's why we're here. Hawaii has 1 out of 10 veterans live in Hawaii. We have a lot of World War II veterans, and a lot of World War II veterans have won the Congressional Gold Medal. The Filipinos, the Nisei, the 142nd, and then now this year, the Chinese veterans of World War II was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal also. So Hawaii, like you say, all the neighbor islands here played a significant role in helping prepare the military here for the war in the Pacific, but more to bring peace to this region and continue to do that day to day as we support the military here and the military supports our community here. This event in Hawaii, celebrating the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II in the Pacific, is very significant for us here in Hawaii. The reason why is if you look at what is based here in the Hawaiian Islands, Indo-Pacific, Indo-PACOM, the headquarters of all the military in the Pacific. So And there is no other place in the United States where you have so many leadership of our military all placed on one island. Having it here and celebrating this on the actual date is very significant for us. This date could easily have been pushed further down the road, but the committee, we've thought about it. We've thought about moving the dates, as most dates for events during this period of COVID has changed, but we felt September 2nd, 2020 wasn't a significant event, and we need to have it on that date on the Missouri that's ported here in Pearl Harbor. So you have the Arizona that started the whole war in the Pacific, and now you have the Missouri that was, as they say, the altar of peace at the end of World War II in Tokyo Harbor. So again, very significant things here based in the islands, but things that are continually happening here on the islands day to day to bring peace into the Pacific.
My name is Bruce Graham. I'm here with two airplanes. One's a TBM-3 that's on the hangar deck still, and this airplane behind me, a T6 or an SNJ-5. I'll be here for the 75th anniversary of the commemoration of the end of World War II, and I was prior service on the USS Kitty Hawk as an ABF. So being here is a twice-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. It's really nice to come back and be a part of it again. It's definitely a trip down memory lane. You know, it's really such a piece of history. You know, that during that time period, our nation was young. We weren't the America everybody is so commonly understanding us to be today. We were, I think we started the war with the fourth largest army. We didn't have as many aircraft carriers. We just didn't have what we just take for granted today. And that, I mean, World War II allowed America to come out and become what we are today with the World War II commemoration, to remember that, hey, 75 years ago, the world was at war and nothing was certain. We didn't know if we were going to survive. We didn't know what tomorrow brought. But the veterans that, you know, the greatest generation fought through in so many different groups and so many different battles, gave us everything we sometimes take for granted today. It's good to come back to this for me to remind myself and hopefully others that let's not take everything for granted. We've been given so much, and it's nice to take some time to remember that. Yeah, so my grandfather was a civilian test pilot for Convair for the B-24s during World War II. My father was a private pilot, and then I was on the USS Kitty Hawk, an aircraft carrier. I was enlisted for a few years. I was an ABF, so that's Aviation Bosun's Mate Fueler, the grapes, the purple shirts. So we did everything when it came to filtering, pumping, and servicing the aircraft, defueling, fueling. So I was on a carrier. I got exposed to all the airplanes. I just loved, like a lot of kids, loved airplanes. It's amazing what they can do. So I got out. I became a pilot as a civilian. And then I found this airplane 17 years ago, and I had been looking for several years. I was certain that I had seen every airplane on the planet, but when I saw this one, I fell in love. I bought it, and since then I've bought several other airplanes. Again, another one's the TBM, but I just love them. They're so unique. They hit all your senses. They hit your sense of smell, your sense of taste even, visually, physically, just everything. When you're in them and you're flying them, it is a different world. And it's a reminder of what this was standard. This was the leading edge, strangely, at one point. But it's a reminder where we've come from as a nation, as a military force. It's really an honor to be part of it. Funny, as I said, I'm a vet myself. And so I personally have a unique connection, I feel, to other veterans. I had a client who recently passed. He was a young guy. He was only 99 and a half. And he windsurfed till he was 85. This guy was amazing. And he was a B-17 navigator during World War II in the 8th Air Force. And he had what we now commonly call PTSD. And I took him for a flight. And, you know, I just wanted to share it. I didn't think anything of it. I said, hey, let's go for a flight. We went, had a great time. We went to an air show. We came back, and he sent me a letter, and it was really touching. And I won't share everything that he shared with me, but basically he was saying that it helped him put peace in his mind of what some of the uncomfortable things that he was having to do during the war, and to be able to experience it and refresh that, hey, you know, there's some really nice things here. For me to have that opportunity, again, not intending, not knowing, but it was an honor to help him in some way after everything that he had done for us. So sometimes you don't know how it affects people, but I'm happy to share it with anybody I can.
Hello, my name is Dan Hill, and here with a T-28 Trojan to help celebrate the 75th commemoration of the ending of World War II here in Hawaii for our veterans. It's a pleasure to be here. Came from California. Aircraft's based in Chino, California, along with a lot of the other aircraft you're going to see here in the next couple of days flying around the islands. I'm a retired Delta Airlines captain, and my T-28 Trojan I've had for 7 years is my hobby, and it was made in 1954. It's a U.S. Navy trainer. I was 22 years old when I started flying, and I ended up with an illustrious airline career, and now I'm somewhat retired, but I enjoy with all my friends flying vintage Warbirds in Southern California and doing events like this in Hawaii, which is like a dream, a lifetime dream. Honestly, my father was a career Marine, 32 years in the Marine Corps. My father flew in all 3 wars, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, with 3 tours in Vietnam in C-130s. So I've been pretty well connected with all 3 wars with my family, and my father with his career as a Marine Corps. So I've always been involved with airplanes, and I know a lot about the history, which I really enjoy, with World War II, Korea, and Vietnam with the airplanes. So I've been an airplane buff and a history buff for a lot of years.